Hello there, you gorgeous people. I hope you're safe and I hope that you're well. Now, I've already connected with Kelly before, but we wanted to do a video together for you today with regards to how to support somebody with religious trauma. Kelly has her own YouTube channel, and I will put a link about now to one of her videos. It's a fantastic community that she has. Kelly, can I just ask you some questions? What is religious trauma, please?
That's a really good question. I think there's a lot of people who've been affected by it that don't realize it. Basically, it's like any other trauma, but it's religion based. So trauma is really anything that sort of sits with us, has shaped how we see things, has shaped how we see ourselves in the world, and has had a negative impact then on our processing and our ability to move forward. And any of that surrounded by religion. So for a lot of people, things like issues with authority have roots in a religious trauma, and authorities in religion that have use that in a way that has caused them pain or caused them trauma. A lot of people have this idea of good and bad, right and wrong that comes from religion that has really impacted the way they understand their own worth and the world in general. That comes a lot from religious trauma. It's really more common than most people think, and it goes deeper than most people think. It's for most of my clients that deal with it, when we hit something, when we're dealing with their history or their background, we hit something that they're resistant to, but they don't know why. There's no real rational reason why, well, if I do this, then I'm a bad person kind of thing. That stuff comes up. Usually I start to do some work on whether or not that might have been religious trauma that they've internalized and just sat on for years. Purity culture is the other really big one. The idea that a woman's worth is in her purity and a woman's worth is in what she gives to her husband. That whole idea, and the husband's job is to care for the woman. The idea of purity culture has very deep roots in people who sort of grew up in it and lived through it and still do live through it today. And that would also fall under the umbrella of religious trauma.
So what if somebody's watching this and they're like, hang on a minute, Jo, what Kelly's saying to me is true. What kind of be your guidance to somebody that's kind of really recognizing it right now?
I tend to encourage them to either find a support group or a therapist in their area, because when you start to untangle those things, they do go so deep. And in religion, we're taught about our creation and who we're made to be and how that happens. It goes in every fiber of what we are if you have grown up in that. And to untangle that into a thing that makes sense and doesn't continue to emotionally harm you, it sometimes does take the work of other people. But if you can't get to a support group and you can't get to a therapist right now, one of the biggest things to remember is that it is not going to be an immediate process anyway. And so one of the best things you can do is start to get okay with who you are at the moment. One of the tips that I give people is to write a list of things they know to be true about themselves. So my name is da 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 da. I am this old. I was born at this time. I like long walks. I wear a shoe size, whatever. Just 5 or 6 things that they know to be true about themselves, about their life right now, and use that for grounding when they start to sort of swirl about this, because it can be kind of mind altering a little bit to realize that some of the things that you've dealt with have been actually more traumatic than you gave them credit for.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And then my last question would be, how do you draw boundaries with other family members? So say if they're religious, how do you draw those boundaries when maybe you as a young person, you're not religious?
That's a really good question. And I think a lot of people find themselves in that situation. It is developmentally normal and appropriate for you to question things you've been told since you were little. Okay. First of all, that is developmentally appropriate. And please don't let other people tell you that's not, because you should be trying to figure out how what you've always been taught fits with what you know now, and how that sort of shapes you as a person. So that's number one. Just be encouraged in the fact that you should be asking questions, and it's okay to ask questions. Number 2, no is a complete sentence. No, thank you, also a complete sentence. If someone is trying to question you about your beliefs, tell them you are not comfortable talking about it right now. It's okay to say that. And that does allow you the time and the space to be able to get to a place where you're on equal footing. When someone's coming to you, especially if it's a family member, especially if they're religious and you are not anymore, or you're questioning it, for them to come to you and say, well, tell me why you don't believe anymore, you are already on the defensive. And that's intentional because they're the ones questioning you. That's kind of how our bodies work. And so getting back to a space where you're not defensive is going to be key in you even having a productive conversation. But honestly, you need to ask yourself if a productive conversation is possible with them. You know your family members, and if you don't think a productive conversation is possible, if you don't think it'll be a safe and affirming conversation for both of you, you don't have to have it because you don't owe anybody an explanation.
Excellent. I love that. Kelly, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and I look forward to doing you a video next week. Make sure you stay awesome and take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.